Welcome to the Introduction to Project Management. So, as a project manager, you need to ask yourself, what exactly is a project and what exactly is management? How am I going to manage something that I'm not exactly sure about its entity? This presentation serves as an introduction to what project management is. So we're going to discuss what is a project and then what is management, how to marry them together, and what are the expected tasks from a project manager. So first of all, what's a project? A project is defined as a temporary endeavor with a limited lifespan. So it has a finite beginning and it has a finite end, and it does not last forever. A project creates a one-of-a-kind or a unique product, service, or result. So the deliverable from the project is going to be something tangible and it's going to be unique. The project does not happen overnight. So a project takes certain steps or certain stages or phases to be developed progressively. So the project is progressively elaborated in different project phases, with each phase's deliverables leading to the following phase. Now that we talked about the project, what is a project, let's talk about management. What exactly is management? So management consists of a set of systematic steps and activities that are taken to ensure the achievement of the project objectives and its deliverables and meeting its goals. There are several definitions of what management is. Some people say that it's an art and a science at the same time. So we're going to use a very simple definition for management. According to that simple definition, that is basically using the Deming loop. Deming is a scholar and an expert on quality management. He wrote different books and theories about quality management, which concluded with something called the Deming loop, which basically defines management as 4 different steps. The first one is plan. So we have to plan what we're going to manage. If you do not have a plan, you cannot manage. Once we have developed a feasible and achievable plan, now we're going to put that plan to test. Therefore, we're going to start executing or performing or doing the project. In case of a construction project, it's going to be construction. In case of a software project, it's going to be writing the code, etc. While we are executing or doing the work, we need from time to time on a regular basis to compare our actual performance to our plan. From time to time, and based on this comparison, we're going to find that our performance either is complying with the plan or it's not complying with the plan. So for example, if we're talking about the time management plan, we have a schedule as our baseline or our plan. Next, we are comparing our actual performance to the schedule. What we may find is we are right on schedule, so we are following the plan, or we are ahead of schedule, so which in many cases can be advisable or good, or we are behind schedule, which in most cases would be bad. What do we do with this information then, that we are not exactly complying with the plan? We need to take an action. So that third step is check. Now, based on this third step, which is check, we need to act. So we need to perform a corrective action, a preventive action, or some sort of action to make sure that we go back to complying with the plan. Or if the plan itself is found to be not feasible, then we have to update and modify that plan. Therefore, it's called a loop because the action returns us back to the very beginning, to modifying the plan. And based on that modified plan, we're going to do again, we're going to check again, we're going to act again. So it goes in cycles until the project is complete. So project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities in order to meet the project requirements. It may include developing these requirements through the plan, determining realistic goals, and that's very important, something that can be achievable. Managing the triple constraint, that's a new word. What is the triple constraint? And notice we have between parentheses, newer version. So what's the old version and what's the newer version? If I go on the street and I ask 10 people who don't have much to know about project management, and I ask them, what are the most important features to manage in a project? Maybe 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10 are going to say, well, you have to manage its time, you have to manage its cost, and you have to manage its scope. What exactly is the project about? And that would be correct, but it would be incomplete. So this is what used to be known as the triple constraint. That's the old version of the triple constraint. In the next few slides, we're going to talk about an expanded or newer version of this triple constraint, and then the complete image of what needs to be managed in the project. So project management also is adapting to the various plans as needed to achieve the goals of the project and its stakeholders. Here's another new word, stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders in general are defined as individuals or entities that affect or are affected, that impact or are impacted by the project, either positively or negatively. So someone who's going to benefit from the project is a stakeholder. Someone who's going to be negatively affected by the project is a stakeholder. If they can impact the project positively or negatively, they are stakeholders. As you may notice, there are many stakeholders to a project. However, their power varies and their interest varies from one stakeholder to another. And in some cases, we're going to have these conflicting or opposing, diametrically opposed stakeholders, and their interests are going to be diametrically opposed. How are we going to balance all of that? That's going to be an art by itself, and it's going to require some tools to basically prioritize these stakeholders and see which ones are indispensable and which ones have a lower priority. So project management can start with the selection of the suitable processes associated with completing the work of the project. In order to do it in a scientific way, it has to be following a certain structure. So it involves using an established methodology to align project and product requirements with the product specifications. What's the role of the project manager then? You are the star, you are the project manager. The main role of the project manager is to coordinate and integrate all activities leading to the project success. He or she is going to be the first one to claim success and the first one to accept blame. So the buck stops with the project manager. In order to summarize the responsibilities of the project manager, he or she will have to be able to provide the answers to any question related to the project, related to why, how, who, when, and where. So again, going back to the triple constraint, the old or the traditional triple constraint looked something like this, with quality in the middle because we have to satisfy the client or the owner. We need to balance cost, time, and scope. So this is what used to be understood as the triple constraint. However, expanding a little bit on that old triple constraint, we can find a newer triple constraint which looks something like this. Again, let's go back here. Here we have integrated quality, cost, scope, and time, and added two new dimensions, and these are risk and customer satisfaction. Of course, there's no project without risk. Therefore, we have to anticipate this risk and plan for it so that we are not surprised when it happens. And we're going to see later on that managing risks involved primarily two elements of that risk. Its magnitude and its likelihood. So how big is that risk? Is it small, average, or large? What's the likelihood of that risk happening? Is it rare? Is it normal? Is it very frequent? Of course, a risk that has a high magnitude and a high probability is going to be a top priority risk, whereas one that has a very low priority or low magnitude and low likelihood, we probably can disregard it. And the last element here in this newer triple constraint is customer satisfaction, which is maintaining good relationships with our customers or our clients. Again, although this expands on the triple constraint, that is not the full picture. Here's the full picture. So we have to manage the scope of the project. We need to manage its time, its cost, its quality. All of these are from the old triple constraint. And then risk, that's in the added constraint. Stakeholders, which is the customer satisfaction in the newer triple constraint. And then we add some additional elements. Communication. 80% of your time as a project manager is going to be spent in communication. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Procurement. So basically, we're going to have to deal with other stakeholders that are connected to the project through contracts, legal documents, the owner, the architect engineer, the construction manager, the suppliers, the subcontractors, etc., etc. Government agencies, banks, lawyers, all of these are going to be connected. So we're going to have to deal with the relationships and the contracts. And finally, human resources. The team that is going to undertake the development of this project. How to assemble that team, how to motivate that team, how to disassemble or dissolve the team upon project completion and reassign them to different other projects. So there's, again, a science related to managing the human resources. The problem now here is that we have too many balls to juggle. So what if something affects time? Is it going to have an impact on cost? Is it going to have an impact on risk? Is it going to have an impact on quality? Is it going to have an impact on the contract? Is it going to affect the stakeholders? And so on and so forth. The answer is yes to all of the above. Therefore, we need to develop an integrated project plan that takes into consideration any modification to any of these moving parts. If something changes, how is it going to affect the other parts? And we have to maintain that jiggly plan or that fluid plan until the project is complete. And that's what's called integration management. This is a very brief introduction to what project management is. We're going to go into deeper details on each one of these different functions as time allows.